After being gone into hiding after the Earth government had been declared her as traitor, Captain Halsey had been on the run for the past few months, traveling around the galaxy trying to be avoiding any military presence or any of the people that may be looking for her. Earth government had put one of the best teams to find her, Firestar Osiris. But even private bounty hunters had also been offered a prize if they could somehow track her down or even capture her. But sometimes she was close, but we managed to avoid them. She had managed to be avoiding from being found for these past few months. She will be living on a small planet where she were avoiding any detection. She actually had chosen a planet without any suspense were habitable for life. She thought, maybe this planet can be at least a safe haven for some time because they're more likely they would track her down or at least try to find her on any habitable planet where that she may be easily be found. So she spent at least 3 months on this lifeless rock in space, as she called it. But she called it also her safe haven for some time. But after a while, she started to notice this particular ship's presence in the region. At first, she was getting a bit worried and a little bit paranoid, maybe that this ship was looking for her. But as this ship was getting closer and closer to this particular rock, or this small, lifeless planet, she had powered down her ship's power to the most minimal level, not as strong enough to get even away of any signals. But it was too late. That particular ship had discovered her, and she saw it was Firestar Osiris, and she was on a big problem this time. But luckily though, she didn't have enough time to be worried about that because she had set up some traps, or at least booby traps around in the system where she was hiding, and she detonated these bombs, and it caused their sensors on Firestar's or ship Osiris ship black, or at least, well, it caused its own temporarily blindness. So she managed to fly away from this planet, what she had temporarily called as a home. But as she was about to put in the coordinates for sleep space navigation, Firestar Osiris tracked her down and fired up on her ships, but they had been under giving orders either try to capture her alive, but if they couldn't, destroy the ship on the spot. They were trying to disable her ship's engine so she won't be able to escape, but she managed to do so. But her slip space generator deactivated itself after like 10 seconds, and she was like very surprised that that even happened. But one other thing that she also was getting worried about, Firestar Osiris was right behind her because she realized 10 seconds in slip space would have been enough time for an even large distance, maybe not more than like 1 or 2 light years. But she didn't discover any sign of any ships in this, like any several miles from her location. So at least that was okay for her. But then she discovered there were a planet in a system that, or at least some distance from her ship. But this, since the 10 seconds was not long enough for her to go into this intended destination that she was planning to go to. So she decided to approach this planet, maybe to find a place there to hide, just in case, to buy some more time. And but as she was approaching the planet, suddenly the ship's alarm went off. It was like beeping, beeping, alarming, and repeating engine error. She discovered on the ship's computer telling her that the main drive has been damaged. They were referring as to the slip space generator drive engine. She had no other option, but she had to find a way safe landing on the planet, and mostly on a one location that she could be safe for some time because she wasn't aware of how damaged this the engine were. But as she was approaching the planet, the turbulence in the atmosphere was so bumping her that she was almost believing that this turbulence would tear apart the ship in pieces. But she landed on the planet's surface, likely though. But eventually, she managed to, at least with a smaller crash landing near a dense forest. She was actually unconscious for at least a few hours after that crash bumped her in her head. But when she came to, she was in a big daze. She felt so dizzy, and she had no idea what happened. But then she started to recollect. She started remembering everything that happened. And then she realized Fire Star Osiris. They could still burn behind her now. She looked out in the windows, but no signs of anywhere. She used the ship's computer to scan in the area for any other ships or anything, but the ship's sensors was down. She had no idea where she were or what how serious the ship's condition even were at the time. So she used the ship's computer to make some self analysis to analyze the ship's systems to see what's damaged and what can be repaired. After like 20 minutes, the analyzing that was came back with the result. Both the ship's communication, shields, weapons, and engines had been damaged beyond repair, meaning she was stuck on this planet. She had no option. She had no way to repair the engines because this ship that she took were only a small person craft and was not unable to have any spare parts on board at all. But she tried to at least fix the communication, but without any the actual spare parts, she had no idea what she could do. So, but she looked around, but from just by the window itself, it looked to be a forest. But she wasn't sure if she can even survive in this environment. There could have been a planet that has green trees, blue sky, but still could have been a different environment. Maybe a different, not even oxygen. Could have been carbon dioxide, or who knows what she said to herself. But at least the ship could analyze the atmosphere outside, and it proved it was breathable for her. So that was a big bonus for her. So she left the ship and walked around in the vicinity and found just trees after trees. And by looking up, she saw the trees were at least dense enough so that she wouldn't be discovered from the air, well, at least for a while now. So she realized now she was stuck on this unknown planet. But then came to realize what planet was she on? So she went back inside, went to the computer, looked at it in its database to to even match its coordinates what she were to see if there was any match of it in its database. But nothing. No result came up with the result came up with no match in its database. The only conclusion that she could come up with, this particular planet didn't match in the system or this database because it hasn't even been explored. Knowing that the galaxy are big, there are tons of countless of planets in the galaxy which yet hasn't even been discovered or explored. So that might be the only solution that she can come up with at the moment. So she decided to at least stay there for a while. But she realized that she had also some medical supply and food supply that would last for about a week. But if she rationed the food, it would last maybe as 2 to 3 weeks. So, but she decided to try to make some repairs on the ship's system, just in case if she could. So for the next couple of days, she tried, but failed every single time. When she thought maybe that she had repaired the communication system, it did work only for about like maybe a minute before it fell apart again. And now that she didn't have any things that she could use for the part. And so she decided to turn off the computer and all that on board to save power. Because without any extra power cells or anything that she can recharge the computer or anything that's necessary, even without the shields, she had no idea what being the power zone like that. Maybe electricity. But she doesn't even know how often that area has storms, so she had no idea if when the next storm could be in. But as time went on for those couple of days, she had only so far explored just the vicinity of the ship. She had only heard some sounds of birds and other animals in the area, but no signs of any intelligent life forms, like humans or aliens for a place. But even though that, she told herself, maybe this planet may possess intelligent life, but perhaps not humans, since this is not even recognized in its database. But even the not necessary had to be meaning that, she thought. Maybe this planet had humans, but never actually been categorized in a system or database because maybe there's a smaller colony that preferred to be as independent. She knew that there were some planets that were fighting to be as declared as independence, not to be dependent on Earth's government or anything right like that. But she wasn't really sure. But as the time went on, she discovered one of those small animals. Looks like a pink dog like creature with a tail, and it looks to have some sort of purple or like a pink gem on his head, on his forehead. She has never seen anything like it. But she heard it says Espeon, Espeon, Espeon repeatedly. So maybe that was the name, so she called it Espeon. But what she didn't expect, this type of animal had some extraordinary power, like almost psychic ability. She's studying this particular animal for some time, and of course, she did notice other animals, like some birds called pitchy, sparrow, and other kinds of animals in the area. But this particular espion somehow got her much interested. She had never encountered on any animal or creature with such extraordinary power. But she'd even give this particular espion some of her food just to try to bind the bond with it. Maybe try to get them to know it a bit better so she can approach it a bit better and without it being attacked. It took her maybe almost a few days, and eventually this espion had at least accepted her as to be friendly. But even though this espion always had its on high alert because even though this human never showed any interest of harming, but only curious. So after a while, Catherine realized her food supplies was getting lower and lower. And after almost 3 weeks, she had only like supplies long enough for maybe just 1 or 2 days. And she had mentioned this to herself when Espion was around, and on her last day of her supplies that she had, Espion returned. But this time carrying on a big leaf, it was a lot of different fruits and berries on it. She was really curious. Why would this Espion bring this to her? But Espion nodded her and tried to make her to eat some of the berries. Even though she had no other option. She only had like 1 day left of rations, and if she doesn't find any other food source, she will starve. So she tried some of the berries, even though it had a bit of bitter taste, but it was edible. Some of the other fruits looks like a blueberry and other types. They were sweet. There were some big fruits. Some reminded her of a pear, and then of an apple. They were both sweet and actually tasty. So she thanked Espion to bring some of this food to her because she said, "Well, Espeon, you really saved me here. This will probably give her enough food for maybe just one day." But then she asked Espeon if she did somehow thought maybe this could understand her, if this Espeon could show her where to find more of this food. Espeon nodded and actually took her to this tree and its berries bushes. And during this conversation what she had and that Espeon understood her, she realized that this Espeon and perhaps the other animals in this forest may have some form of intelligence. Maybe not the same level as humans, but basically understanding what they need. So Catherine gathered enough of the food and decided, well, maybe it is time me to leave this area. So she put the ship's self-destruct, which vaporized the ship instead of making full destruction. She only gathered and changed clothes for what she had with her, like civilian clothes. She brought some of the food and she thanked Espeon for the company and about to leave. But what she didn't know, Espeon actually followed her, but she told this Espeon to stay because this forest was its home. She was going to find some other place to go. But Espeon actually didn't care. It followed her. And after a while she actually accepted this. And for the next couple of days, Espeon and Catherine traveled from the small forest, and as far as she know, she saw more of other type of Espeons and Vaporeons, and she wondered, this world very much unique, had somehow basic intelligent animals with very unique powers. I had never came across any other world in this galaxy for like before. You never heard stories of anything like this. But after almost 3 days of walking, she came across a small village. She was very worried that she may be recognized. So she had to elevate a hoodie over and that she wouldn't be recognized. At least that gave her some, well, confident enough to be walking around in this small village. There weren't many people living there, maybe as close as maybe as 40. But she stayed there for maybe just 2 days. She worked in this small farm in order to gain some food and water and all that kinds of thing. But after a while, she decided to continue. Espeon still stayed by her side, and after a while, they came to a bigger city after about almost another few days. This one contained maybe as 200 people. They went to this small building, which they later called Pokemon Center. She had learned the name of the species, Pokemon. She had learned there are hundreds, very different village, very types, evolution forms. So she stayed at this Pokemon Center for a couple of days, and even at this place, the nurse Joy, who ran this operation, this place, gave Catherine a Pokeball. The same things that she had seen other people been using, and Espeon had chosen to be her Pokemon. She took the Pokemon, and, and after a while though, she actually decided why not to stay in this particular town for a little bit longer. She actually helped around at the Pokemon Center trail to learn more about Pokemon and other things. She in fact even got to know another young man by the name Rex. Rex was a young scientist from this particular small town, and he actually been studying about Pokemon's evolution forms and their unique powers. And eventually, he and Catherine start to spend a bit more time, get to know each other. But but Catherine never revealed anything about her past to Rex. Most because she didn't know if he could be trusted. But after a while, though, almost like few months had passed already, she and Rex had actually become a romantic couple. Even at the maze to Catherine, she didn't attend it. She had no intention to start any relationship with anyone. She had only planned to stay in this small town for at least a few months and then move on. But having been involved with Rex, she couldn't even stand to just leave him, because now she will start caring about it. And even Espeon has stayed by her side ever since. And after almost 2 years of it staying in this town, Catherine and Rex, they actually got married. And she actually had Espeon as her bridesmaid, since she later found out it was actually a girl, Evie, which it had involved to Espeon. Espeon was really happy to see Catherine so smiling happy. And a few months later, almost a year later, Catherine discovered she was pregnant and was expecting a baby girl. She was really happy though. She and Rex actually was just quite happy. But still, Catherine hasn't even told Rex about her past, because she decided not to mention anything about it. After all, she had come to realize as a scientist that short 10 seconds slip space travel wouldn't have been enough time for travel to just maybe 1 or 2 light years. But what if that when her light slip space generator was unstable for that 10 seconds must have been open a rift between her universe and another dimension or something? That would make sense to her. So she actually came to realize that and accepted it, living now a peaceful life with her new husband and their new baby. And if there weren't then when that just 3 years later though, they actually had a baby boy. And Espeon, she was actually happy to have Catherine as a true friend. Because Catherine, she had even mentioned that. Because Catherine had told Espeon that she was very grateful for her. Because if also for her, giving her some of the berries and the fruit in that forest, she may not have been around anymore. And for that, she is very truly happy to have Espeon as a true, absolute friend. Espeon smiled and actually was happy to have met Catherine, and that she was considering her as a true friend too. And this is how Catherine Halsey and Espeon were a true friend. The end.